This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, we promised you that Eddie would be in the house. Always love talking to Eddie, talking a little basketball. Follow my man Eddie House on Twitter at EddieHouse_50. And, of course, FS1 Analyst. And always kind enough to give us some time to talk
always
a little basketball.
One of us, always Heat.
Yes, that's right. All about the Heat. Although we are, Eddie, we're in pain right now, my man. We are hurting after last night. What'd you think of that performance? And thank you for joining us.
Oh man, that was a tough one to watch. It started off pretty good in the first quarter, and late in the first quarter, the tide started to turn. Seemed like the Lakers role players stepped up huge, and it's knocked down threes. Now, the one thing I think you could take away if you're the Heat, look at the game and say, will they make 11 threes in the first half again? And that's very hard to do. And any team that makes that many threes in the first half should have a very big lead. I think one thing that the Heat have to look at is not give up so many open threes, but that's extremely hard to do when you're worried about LeBron James putting pressure on the rim, when you're worried about Anthony Davis putting pressure on the rim. You have to help at some point. So, definitely a challenge for the Heat moving forward to understand that you got to get out, run them off the three, make them put the ball on the floor, make the role players have to make plays and not just get the ball passed to them and they shoot the ball. So I believe in their exposure. I believe in the Miami Heat. I believe in that franchise and that organization, and they always make adjustments. And believe me, I think they'll have a better performance come game two. And Kendrick Nunn, I think he played extremely well, and that gives him confidence moving into game two if Warren's not able to go.
Eddie, the one thing that, and it was, I hate to say it, it was almost inevitable because they're so young, man, in a lot of positions. Obviously, guys like Jimmy and Iguodala aren't young, but they have a lot of young guys. And they had been so mature throughout this entire process, throughout the entire year, throughout being in the bubble, and every round. For the first time last night, I almost saw, like, at times, it looked like for some of these young guys that the moment finally got too big for them. Did you almost get that sense a little bit last night?
Well, I think really what it was, not knowing what to expect, and going through, and it is when you're not playing in the finals, and you're playing to get there and stuff. Every step is a different step, and it is a bigger step to climb. And every time you climb that step, it gets a little brighter, a little hotter. And I think last night was just an example of you got punched in the mouth, and that's it. It's a heavyweight fight. This is a 7-game series. Don't want to overreact after one game, but you do want to be concerned with the fact that Tyler Hero running the baseline, not getting his feet in bounds. Those little small things that you look at, to me, that show that they're youth. But I think their youth also is part of their strength, is that never being there before and not understanding the magnitude of sometimes. Because sometimes you look back and be like, man, that was something special going on. And just being in the moment, you just go through it, and being young, sometimes that helps you just go through those moments. So I think that they'll be able to bounce back. This is definitely going to be a test of their psyche. I think this is going to let us know, are these youngsters going to be these type of players that are able to bounce back and not linger on to anything in their mind that they feel that was a negative. Duncan Robinson not playing well at all last night. They only got 3 shots. Looking at something like that and say, hey, man, I got to be back in the gym, being in the gym today, getting up shots to make sure that when you get your look, you knock it down so that space, that floor can open up. So I think it's going to be a test of their character. And I believe in the Miami Heat and in that organization, Pat Riley, understanding, picking the right type of players for that team. I expect them to bounce back.
All right, so in theory, I love what you're saying, Eddie, and obviously, Eddie, you played the game. You forgot more about it than we know. You played for this organization. You played for guys like Spo and Riley, so you've been around these guys. You know how they're wired. I get all of that. but I now know, and you now know, that Dragan is doubtful, and so is Bam. And when the Heat put out information that somebody's doubtful, that's enormous news because they kind of want to keep everything under wraps and keep it to game time. Doubtful, that tells me they're not going to play. And without Bam, with Bam, it's tough enough to stop AD. Without Bam, my man, how the hell does the Heat stop that dude? That guy's a beast.
I don't think anybody can stop him. I think you look at AD as an unstoppable player. You know, the only person that stops him is himself. You know, missing shots. LeBron is the same type of way. I don't think that you focus on trying to stop those guys. You want to continue to make everything tough for them, but you're never going to completely shut them down or stop them. It's the other players that you have to stop: the Danny Greens, the Kyle Kuzmas, the Rajon Rondo. Of the world, the Moore, you got to stop him. Those are the guys, Caldwell Pope. Those are the people that you have to stop, that you have to make uncomfortable, that you have to make understand that it's not going to be easy for them, even though it looks easy for LeBron and AD. You're still making it tough on them, but they're so great to where they still make it look easy. You want to make everybody notice that it's hard out there for these other guys, you know, and I think that's the approach. You cannot get beat by the supporting cast. You know what LeBron's going to bring. You know what AD's going to bring. What has to be a mystery is this guy going to be able to show up tonight? Can Kyle Kuzma consistently make shots? Can Morris consistently make shots? Can KCP consistently make shots? And along with Rajon Rondo and Caruso as well. So you got to make it tough on all those other guys. The two stars are going to be stars. That's always how it's been.
So what do you do if you're Spo? How do you handle the defeat? The difference, you know, I've been saying this throughout the show, Eddie, throughout the playoffs, even if they were falling behind in a game, they were always in control of every series they've been in, from the Pacers, Milwaukee, and the Celtics, always in control because they always had a series lead. So it didn't matter if they got tripped up. Here, they have now lost the series lead right from the get-go. They're down 0-1. They're now probably down 2 players because Jimmy will play tomorrow. So if you're Spo, what's the message and what's the kind of tweaking that you do with that roster without those 2 guys to try to get a victory?
Well, I don't know if it's guaranteed that those 2 guys aren't playing, but if those 2 guys aren't playing, I think Kendrick Nunn is going to get extra minutes, and he's a different problem than Goran Dragic is. I think he's more athletic, he's more explosive, he's a little more quicker off the pick and roll. He's definitely more of a scoring threat. You see what he was able to do all season long. I think that creates a different problem for the Los Angeles Lakers and how they're going to have to guard as well. So you try to take your positives and highlight your positives. And the negatives that were on out there to me was gave up too many threes early on. We cannot give up that many threes. We got to run guys off the three and make them make plays. Make them put the ball on the floor and see if they could make a one dribble pull up with a hand in the face. See if they could try to make a play for somebody else, because a lot of these guys like Danny Green, not a playmaker. Kyle Kuzma, not a playmaker. KCP, not a playmaker. You want to put these guys in a position where they're not able to be comfortable and just catching shots and things like that. So I think the message is, hey, it's game 1. This is a 7-game series. We can't get wrapped up in what happened. It is over with. What happened yesterday is over with. What we have to do is move forward. We're going to make the necessary adjustments. And no matter what, if we have Bam or we don't have Gorn, we still believe in each other that we can get it done. And I think that definitely has to be the message. And I know that team has to believe in that. Just because you have guys go down, I think a lot of people look at it in this way, like, man, they just lost that player. But the player that's sitting behind him should be looking at it as an opportunity for them to help the team and step up, especially, it's a championship on the line.
Right. No, I'm with you there. Eddie House, of course, joining us, former Heat player. Follow him on Twitter at EddieHouse_50. I have said from the get-go, when this bubble stuff started, that this might be the hardest championship any team has ever won. because you start the season, now you're off for 4 months, and then now you got to go into a bubble. And listen, plenty of people throughout time have had to go to work and move away from their families, whether it's war or a job or anything else. So I get it that what they did is not necessarily special than anybody else, but it's still tough to be locked in, in one place for 2 months that you can't leave anywhere. So you've got to maintain your focus and not let the distractions actually get in the way. To me, I think this is one of the toughest championships. Now, Scottie Pippen kind of downplayed it. He says it's kind of like pickup basketball. So some of us think it's really impressive what any team has done to get through this whole season, and some of us don't. Where does Eddie House stand?
Well, I stand like this. They all have the same even playing field. So, to me, it's not pickup basketball. They are out there hooping. I think the league did a phenomenal job of making sure that the bubble was a safe haven, that there was great product that was put out on TV, that people watched. It was competitive ball. I mean, all the way to the beginning, from the start. I look at it, I don't think that it's the hardest because it's two factors to me. It's the factor of it. You talked about distractions. I think there's more distractions if you have to fly somewhere and sit in a hotel in another city and eat other food and, room service, or go out to the restaurants and then actually step into an arena where you're dealing with other distractions as far as the fans heckling you. I think that part is lost in it. You definitely have to have some sort of mental strength and focus to just know that you're in this bubble, but you're not traveling anywhere. To be the hardest championship, I can't agree with that. I think that this would be one of the easiest because also in the middle of the season, it got shut down, right? Usually you play a season straight through, and a lot of things happen with a straight through season. Guys were able to get a break and get their body fresh. If they were dealing with any kind of ailment, they were able to heal and get that together, and they come into the bubble to play 8-9 games, whatever it was, before the playoffs start. Everybody should be in tip-top shape. Everybody should be ready to go, and there should be no nagging injuries, nothing that's happening. You had all the time to take care of whatever you – even some guys, if you needed to, you could have went and had a quick soak and been able to be back. So, to me, it's definitely not the easiest. Not the hardest championship. I think in retrospect, it is probably one of the easiest ways for somebody to win a championship. 8 games and then you're right into the playoffs.
I think you're mixing up a regular normal off season to an off season in 4 months where you had to be quarantined. You really could not get medical treatment because that was not allowed. You really couldn't be outside and really go to gyms or anything like that because that wasn't allowed. It was a different.
Well, a lot of guys have gyms. A lot of guys have gyms at their house, though. A lot of guys have gyms at their house, so they're able to work out, and everything's not going to be video, so or even spoken about. People were getting work in. People were getting their workouts in, and no, it wasn't like you were locked down, where if you stepped outside your house, an alarm went off and said, "Hey, man, there's a policeman officer right there saying you better get back in your house." No, people were able to still move around and do what they do. That's why everybody came back still in shape. It wasn't like guys weren't out of shape when they came back when they came into the bubble. They weren't out of shape. So to me, like in theory, yeah, it sounds like it could be the hardest, but you have 4 months to recoup, to heal, to get right. And usually if you have a long playoff run, you only got 2 months and then you're back right after the season. So you had a big 4 month window to where you were able to get right, to pop right back in, and everybody can hit the ground running. And it's even for everybody. To me, I feel like this was the most even playoff that there has ever been. Everybody has the same set of obstacles that they had to deal with.
Now, and Eddie House joining us. Eddie, I think you kind of answered the question, but let's just say if Bam and Goran do not play, because it doesn't look good so far with those guys. I mean, one has plantar fasciitis, and that thing looks like it completely tore off the foot last night, which is just, you've been around somebody that's had plantar fasciitis, right? That is some painful stuff. That is painful, dude. Anyway, if they don't play, who's the guy tomorrow that must step up in a big-time way? We know the team has got to do it. Coaching staff's got to do it. But if there's one guy that has to really step up big time, if Miami's going to have any shot tomorrow, who is it?
This is the thing with Miami. I don't think that there's one particular guy that you're looking for to step up. They've been
You're right.
leaning on the team.
Right.
They've been leaning on the team, so it's been different guys. I think everybody has to step up. I think everybody has to say, Jimmy Butler has to raise up his level of play. I think every single person that puts on that uniform tomorrow, every single person that gets their name called, that goes to check into that game, every person that is involved in making any kind of impact on that game has to elevate everything that they have been doing. If it was on a level 4, they got to go to a level 10 right away. I think that's the only way that they're going to get it done if they're missing those two guys, that it's going to take everybody, not one person, because not one person ever won any of those series for Miami coming into here. It has been a multitude of guys. You had Tyler Hero be a star in a series, in some games to win series. You had Duncan Robinson do it before. Obviously, we know with Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo with the block on Jason. I mean, it's been a multitude of guys. So it's not one guy that's going to take the whole team to elevate their game, especially and also the coaching staff as well.
All right, Jimmy. I'm sorry. All right, Eddie. I'll let you go with this. Okay, Eddie House joining us. Follow him on Twitter, EddieHouse_50. Is there a part of you, Eddie, that says, "Man, I wish I would have played 20 years later"? Because your game was so suited for this NBA, my man. I mean, think about that, right? Think about your game in this NBA. How much would you love playing in this kind of NBA nowadays?
Well, I love playing in the NBA regardless. It's always a dream. But, you drive yourself crazy if you think that, man, only if I don't live in the only if and things like that. It was what it was. I was able to accomplish the dream, and I'm extremely proud about what I was able to do, not only from grade school to high school to college, and in my NBA career, winning a championship and having opportunity to play on some really, really special teams, some great teams. There's no regrets, and there's no looking at like, man, I wish. Because then if you're living in the rear view.
Oh,
and,
no, I don't want you to live in the rear view mirror or in the past. You're older, you're wise, which is what you're giving us, some wise words there. But you do have to admit, your game would kill it in today's NBA. You would.
It definitely fits. And I look at it like this, man. Hey, I was one of the trailblazers. I was one of the pioneers of the game switching. I was a guy that would, if you could say, well, he could play. If I could play in that era, I could play in this era. I could have probably. So I'm a guy that could play in any era. So I'll take it like that. In my mind, I feel like I could play in any era.
Yeah, because when we talked and got it set up, I started thinking about it. I go, man, Eddie would have been loving playing in this NBA with his style of play. That would have been absolutely awesome. Eddie,
let it fly,
and you can do that. That's for damn sure. Follow him on Twitter, Heat fans, EddieHouse_50. Eddie, as always, man, thank you for taking some time and joining us. We were able to free Eddie House today.
Free Eddie House. Let's go back. It's all good, man. Let's get this win tomorrow, Heat.
You got it. All right. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate you.
Yep.
You got it. There you go. Peace. Eddie House, baby. Free Eddie House. For those of you that don't know the story behind Free Eddie House, do you remember the Free Eddie House story? I bet he doesn't.
Man, I don't
remember that.
But exactly when you said it, I do remember hearing it. I just can't remember what it was.
So Eddie's not playing, right? He hasn't been getting a lot of playing time. And so Riley's daughter made a T-shirt called Free Eddie House. And she wore it, I believe, to a game. And so a photographer took a picture. This is before social media. So it kind of went viral, but without social media viral. It was a different kind of viral. And so then she kind of became a storyline like, Coach, we've been asking about Eddie House, and there's your daughter also saying free Eddie House and play Eddie House. And so there you go. That's the story of free Eddie House.
He's, like I had said in the beginning, you misunderstood it. He is always one of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Eddie House is Heat.
Yeah.
He is.
Well, we drafted him.
Well, not only I also was looking at his career. He came back to us to finish.
Yes, he did.
And you know what?
Good dude, man.
How many Heat players started with us, grew with us, we groomed, and then they went on to do stuff.
Yeah. Usually.
And he's one of those guys. Eddie House is us.
And some of them will come back, and some of them will work with the Heat franchise.
Well, you heard it. He sounds like he's all for the Heat, man.
Yeah, well, because
come on. That's his origin.
Everybody that's willing to work and be a professional, you'll be fine with the Heat. Now, if you want to be a slacker and you don't want to work and you want to be an idiot and you want to go party in South Beach,
we don't need to say names.
That's it. And then it's just you're not going to be for Riley. You're not going to be for that franchise. That's all. How many of you, by the way, run your business that way, just like Riley? That if your employee doesn't want to work, they're not going to be there. That's it. I'm sure there's plenty of you out there that are bosses and you have your own business, and nobody wants to have a slacker on their payroll. That doesn't help you.
You're only as strong as your weakest link.
That's
bro.
right. That's right.